The first time I saw Ava, she was on stage at a small showcase in the city, singing like the world didn't matter. It was one of those intimate label nights, velvet booths, candlelight, the kind of place where executives sipped whiskey with their pinkies out while pretending not to be impressed. I wasn't supposed to be there. My best friend had dragged me along last minute, swearing this woman had it. And she did. Not just the voice, though, yeah, that was unreal, but something else. Magnetic. The kind of presence that made everyone sit up a little straighter. She was wearing this forest green jumpsuit, hair up, and that voice. It made everything else disappear. I wasn't looking for anything that night. I'd just gotten out of a messy situation, not really in the mindset to flirt or chase anything. But something about Ava, maybe the way she laughed off a mic glitch, or how she locked eyes with me for just a second during her set, stayed with me. After her performance, she disappeared into the green room crowd, and I figured that was that. But a week later, I got a DM from her. No idea how she found me. Just a short message, "Did you like the show?" Smiley face. That smiley face hit harder than I expected. We started slow, coffee, walks, talking about everything and nothing. She wasn't just talented, she was sharp, warm, weird in the best ways. She'd send me voice notes late at night, little half-sung melodies, or just thoughts that popped into her head. And I'd respond with the same energy, no filters. It felt easy. Natural. A kind of rhythm I hadn't felt in any of my past relationships. Ava wasn't famous then, not the way she is now, but I could see the wave forming. Labels were sniffing around. Collaborators were asking for sessions. She had a way of walking into a room and owning it, even if she never acted like she was above anyone. Still, she'd admit the industry scared her. The politics, the pressure. She liked making music, not the game that came with it. That's where I think we fit. I wasn't in that world. I was in finance. Structured, predictable, and completely different from her chaos. I think she liked that. We got married 2 years after we met. A small ceremony upstate, surrounded by friends, family, and her producer who cried more than her mom did. That first year. It was kind of perfect. We traveled. She played small venues while I worked remotely from wherever we landed. There was laughter, lazy Sundays in bed, wine-soaked dinners where we talked about ridiculous dreams, buying a vineyard in Italy, adopting an old greyhound, putting out a jazz album, just because. Our place was this 3-bedroom in a quiet, leafy part of Brooklyn. Big windows, lots of light, a kitchen Ava actually used more than I expected. She loved to cook when she wasn't in the studio. I handled the wine and the playlists. We threw dinner parties with other creatives, sometimes with a string quartet playing in the background and once even a magician someone brought randomly. Ava thrived in that space, connecting people, curating moods, making the night feel like a living, breathing piece of art. I was proud of her. Not just of her voice or her rising profile, but the way she never lost herself in it. At least, not then. She'd still cuddle into me at the end of a long day and ask how my meetings went. She'd still get excited about mundane things, a new candle, a different kind of pasta, some thrifted ceramic she just had to have. We shared everything. That's what it felt like. One of those rare, real partnerships where you're building something together, no one pulling ahead. And it was good. It was really, really good. Ava's career started picking up in a way that felt surreal. One minute she was playing cozy lounge sets and the next, she was doing a duet with a Grammy nominee on a late-night show. I remember sitting backstage with her at that taping, watching the whole crew buzz around like bees on espresso. She had on this fitted black suit, no dress, no sparkles, just clean lines and sharp edges, and I couldn't stop staring. She looked powerful. Like she belonged. She squeezed my hand before she walked out, whispered, "I'm still just Ava." And I believed her. From there, things moved fast. Her songs were suddenly in movie trailers, on curated playlists, on commercials we didn't even realize had licensed her voice. The phone rang constantly. People wanted her for everything: performances, endorsements, features, covers. Her label started flying her out to LA more often, booking her in better studios, pairing her with bigger names. She didn't even have a full album out yet and there were already brand deals on the table. Meanwhile, I held things down in New York. My job kept me grounded: mergers, presentations, high-pressure clients. But I liked that rhythm. It gave me a sense of purpose outside the Ava universe. We had a rule: no matter where we were, we'd talk every night. Sometimes it was just 5 minutes. Other times, we'd end up on the phone until one of us passed out. It kept us tethered. And when she was home, she was home. She'd crash on the couch in sweatpants, eat takeout straight from the container, fall asleep on my chest mid-movie. She didn't let the spotlight swallow her. That's one thing I always admired about her: she made a point to come back to the quiet. We were in sync. We had our routines. Sunday grocery runs, late-night walks in the park, spontaneous road trips where she'd blast her favorite demos and ask for my notes like I was some secret A&R. And yeah, we fought sometimes, nothing major, just the usual friction. Like when I missed her EP release party because a client's deal was going sideways, or when she forgot to tell me about a last-minute trip and I came home to an empty apartment. But it never turned ugly. We talked. We got through it. We knew how to land the plane. I think a lot of people looked at us and saw a power couple. That sounds dramatic, but there was a kind of balance to us, her with the glitter and unpredictability, me with the structure and the calm. We made space for each other. We celebrated the wins. We picked each other up during the lows. She told me once, curled up in bed with her fingers tracing my chest, "You're the only thing in my life that doesn't feel like a performance." That meant everything. We weren't just building a life. We were building something intentional. We talked about future albums, maybe a townhouse in the West Village, kids someday, though we were in no rush. We had time. Or so we thought. Ava had just signed on to record her debut full-length album with a new production team. It was supposed to be her most personal work yet. She said she wanted to dig deep. Strip everything back. Show people the real her. The studio sessions for Ava's debut album started that spring. She'd come home with rough mixes, sometimes frustrated, sometimes buzzing like she'd touched lightning. She'd throw her coat over the chair, kick her shoes off in the hallway, and put on her headphones at the kitchen island while I poured her wine. Then she'd motion for me to come listen. I'd lean in behind her, arm around her waist, and we'd stand like that until the track ended. One night she played a song so raw it gave me goosebumps. Just piano and her voice, nothing polished. "That one's gonna ruin people," I told her. She smiled and whispered, "That's the goal." I remember thinking how lucky I was to be part of her world, not just witnessing it, but trusted enough to hear what no one else had yet. She'd always been guarded about her process, but during that stretch, she let me in more. We talked about lyrics over dinner, about how she wanted to show complexity without sounding like she was pandering. "No tortured artist clichés," she'd say. "Just truth." That was her whole mission, truth. It mattered to her that what she put out felt like her. Not the version people expected, but the actual her underneath all the layers. Around this time, she was spending more hours in Midtown at the label's private studio. Sometimes overnight, if things were flowing. She'd text me at 2 a.m. with sleepy selfies, half asleep in a vocal booth. I never worried. I'd text back some dumb meme or, "Can't wait to hear it," and roll over. Ava had her own people now, stylists, engineers, publicists, but she was still careful about who she let close. She didn't do fake industry friendships. One name that started coming up more was Darren Locke. He was a senior producer with the label, a guy with a string of hits and a bit of a reputation for discovering women and pushing them to stardom. Ava mentioned he was involved in the executive oversight of her album. He's intense, she'd said, but he knows what he's doing. I met him once at a listening mixer. Tall, expensive, too smooth. One of those guys who holds his glass like he's starring in a bourbon commercial. He complimented Ava's tone, that rasp is gold, then shook my hand and said, "You must be the lucky guy." His smile didn't reach his eyes, but I chalked it up to industry charm. Ava didn't seem particularly chummy with him, just professional. The album started shaping up fast. They were planning a summer release, a lead single timed for a film soundtrack, a mini tour after. Everything was happening. Her face was popping up on playlists, editorials, mood boards. People on the street started asking for selfies. She always took them. At home, things stayed solid. We had quiet nights and loud mornings, takeout in bed, records playing late. The energy between us never dipped. If anything, it deepened. She was making the best work of her life, and I felt like I was watching someone I loved become fully themselves. Summer rolled in, and with it came the whirlwind that was Ava's album release. The label threw a private launch party at a rooftop venue downtown. Candlelight, skyline views, custom cocktails named after her tracklist, the whole thing felt like a scene out of a movie. Ava was in a soft gold dress, hair swept up, laughing with some execs from overseas. When she spotted me across the room, she mouthed, "You okay?" That was her. No matter who was in front of her, she never forgot to check in. The album dropped 2 days later and blew up faster than anyone predicted. It debuted high on the charts. She was everywhere, interviews, panels, late-night spots. People were quoting her lyrics on Twitter, tagging her in covers, comparing her to artists she'd grown up idolizing. Our doorbell buzzed more often than ever, PR packages arriving every other day. We barely kept up with it all. Still, we made space for each other. That was the deal. I handled most of the house stuff while she bounced between press and rehearsals. She'd collapse next to me at night, sometimes half-dressed, with that look in her eyes that said not now, just hold me. I did. Every time. Our anniversary was in July. We didn't have time for anything big, but I surprised her with a private dinner in the botanical garden after hours, just us, one server, candlelight among the trees. She cried when she saw the setup. Told me I always knew how to find the stillness. Later that night, back home, she played me a song that hadn't made the album. Said it was just for me. I still keep that recording on my phone. Around this time, the label started hinting at expanding Ava's brand. Not just music, endorsements, fashion, maybe a beauty collab. It wasn't her first instinct, but she was open. If I can pick the right ones, she said, I can use it to support the art. Darren Locke was part of that conversation. He'd been around more, meetings, calls, dinners the label set up to schmooze potential partners. Ava would come home from those with a look I recognized, half excited, half exhausted. She'd tell me about how superficial some of the meetings were. They want me to be everything at once, sexy, deep, soft, fierce. It's like, pick a lane. I'd listen. Sometimes all she wanted was to be heard, not fixed. Other times, I'd offer quiet advice, just enough to let her know she wasn't alone in it. There were weekends she had to fly out for quick shows or campaign shoots. I stayed behind. I never minded. The distance didn't feel like distance. We still talked. Sent each other dumb photos. She'd ask me to send videos of the dog snoring. One night she texted, I miss your coffee more than I miss New York. I knew what she meant. People were starting to refer to her as a star. I never called her that. She was Ava. My wife. My favorite person to sit in silence with. We were in a rhythm. Busy, yes. A little breathless at times. But we were good. We were always good. It started with a missed call. Nothing unusual, not at first. Ava was in Chicago for a late-night show and a radio appearance the next morning. I'd texted her around midnight, just a quick, "How'd it go?" with a clip of our dog trying to eat a cherry tomato off the floor. No response. Again, not weird. She'd probably crashed early. But then I saw the call. She dialed me at 2:47 a.m. and didn't leave a message. When I texted her in the morning, she replied a few hours later like nothing had happened. "Sorry babe. Phone died, then overslept. Show was amazing. I'll call after press." I brushed it off. The time zones, the schedule, it made sense. But something about the timestamp stuck in my head. 2:47 a.m. It wasn't like her to call that late unless something was wrong. I wondered if she'd had a nightmare or needed to hear my voice. I told myself not to overthink it. That was the first time I felt it, the tiniest ripple. Later that week, she flew back for 48 hours before heading to LA again. We had dinner at our favorite spot, a place with dim lighting and real linen napkins, tucked between a bookstore and a wine shop. She was quieter than usual, but not in a distant way. More like tired. Her eyes didn't settle. She kept checking her phone, not obsessively, just, often. I asked if something was going on with the label, and she shook her head. "They're just being pushy about timelines. You know how it is." Then she reached across the table and held my hand. "I just want to finish this stretch and be home for a while." The next day, she had meetings all afternoon. I worked from home. When she got back, she seemed distracted, talking through wardrobe decisions for a shoot, checking fabric swatches against her skin in the hallway mirror. I offered to help pick one, but she said she'd already sent her choices to her stylist. She barely touched the dinner I made, but she kept saying she was just exhausted. That night, she fell asleep early. I stayed up reading. Around 1 a.m., I heard her phone buzz on the nightstand. I didn't look at it, we'd never been that kind of couple, but I noticed she shifted in her sleep and reached for it. Didn't wake up. Just clutched it, like she was anchoring herself to something. It was a small thing. But it stayed with me. The next morning, she left for LA again. A short trip, just 4 days. I walked her to the car. She kissed me 3 times like she always did. "Call you when I land," she said. I watched her drive away. Inside, the apartment felt still, not lonely, just quiet. I fed the dog, poured coffee, checked the news. Everything normal. But that call at 2:47 a.m. circled back in my mind. I opened our shared calendar to see what her schedule looked like. The time block just said, "Studio." No location. No contact names. Just 6 hours marked out with a beige-colored tag I didn't recognize. It wasn't a red flag. It wasn't even a yellow one. But something about it felt, slightly off. Just enough for me to notice. Just enough to make me pause. The beige calendar tag appeared again 3 days later. Same vague title, "Studio." No address, no label info, no notes. Just a block of time set from 6 p.m. to midnight. That alone wasn't strange. Artists work odd hours, and Ava often preferred late-night sessions. But what caught me off guard was that she usually color-coded everything. Label meetings were in green, shoots in red, rehearsals in blue. Beige was new. I didn't bring it up. It felt petty. Still, I made a mental note. When Ava called that night, she sounded normal, a little tired, but upbeat. Said they were layering some background vocals and trying out new strings on a track that hadn't clicked yet. "You'd like this one," she said. "It's kind of weird and moody." I asked if she'd send a clip, and she said maybe tomorrow. They were still messing with it. The next day, nothing came. I figured it got buried in the chaos. But that little pause, that space where something usually was and now wasn't, stayed with me. It wasn't that she was lying. It just didn't feel like her. 2 weeks passed like that. A few short trips, lots of FaceTimes, a new round of press she didn't seem excited about. The beige blocks became regular. Always in the evening, always without details. She stopped volunteering little stories about the studio. Her updates turned generic: "It's going well, we're trying different stuff, everyone's tired but in a good way." I started to feel like I was watching her through a tinted window. One afternoon, she sent me a selfie from the dressing room of a shoot, dramatic lighting, tousled hair, a velvet backdrop. She looked amazing. I texted back, "Stunning. Who's the shoot for?" She replied, "Just an editorial thing. Nothing big." I asked if she was working with her usual photographer. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. Finally, "Nope, new guy. They're testing some concepts." Ava never used filler language like "thing" or "guy." She was precise with words, even in texts. I stared at that reply for longer than I should have. That night, I checked our shared drive, where she usually kept drafts, travel details, press materials. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for. Just wandering, I guess. One of the newer folders caught my eye. It was oddly unlabeled, just sitting there among her neatly organized work. I opened it and found a few audio clips, none with proper titles or dates. Just rough demos. The kind she normally named carefully, logged with notes. This time, there was nothing. It felt off. Like walking into a room that's been hastily tidied, everything in place, but none of it where it really belongs. I clicked through a few audio files. They were rough, incomplete. At one point I heard a faint voice under Ava's, a male voice, speaking into the booth mic. Could have been an engineer, could have been Darren. I replayed it 3 times, but it was too low to make out. I told myself to shut the folder and go to bed. I didn't sleep well that night. Not because anything was obviously wrong. Just because something had shifted. Like when you walk into your house and the light feels off, not dark, not broken, just wrong. I started waking up with this knot in my chest. Nothing sharp, nothing I could name, just a quiet kind of pressure. Like something was hovering just outside the frame of what I understood. Ava came back from LA midweek, suitcase in hand, hair in a bun, sunglasses still on as she stepped through the door. I kissed her. She kissed me. Everything looked like it should. We had dinner, Thai from that place she always loved, and she told me about a playlist feature she landed on, how the head of her label had called to congratulate her. She spoke quickly, like she was catching me up, but not really inviting me into it. I asked how the sessions went. She hesitated, just for a second, then said, "Good. We scrapped a few things, started fresh. Darren wants to go darker with the production. I think he's right." Then she started clearing the table before I could say anything else. That night she fell asleep before me. I stayed in the living room, lights off, listening to the low hum of the refrigerator. Something wasn't sitting right. Not an accusation, not even a hunch, more like the weight of an unfamiliar silence. The kind you notice only when it's been around long enough to change the shape of the room. The next morning, I offered to drive her to the studio. She said she'd already booked a car, something about traffic and needing to take a call on the way. I nodded, told her to have a good session. When the car pulled up, I stepped out with her, walked her to the curb. She smiled, kissed my cheek, then slid into the back seat. As it pulled away, she waved. But she didn't look back. I went back upstairs and opened our calendar. Another beige block. No details. Later that day, I called her just to hear her voice. She didn't pick up. A few minutes later, she texted, "Hey, can't talk," in the booth. Call after. I answered, "Sure," and left it at that. She called around 9 p.m., sounded a little breathless, said they went late. I asked if they got something good. She said yeah, then trailed off and asked if the dog had eaten. It was little things. She didn't unpack her suitcase for 3 days, unusual for her. Normally she'd toss everything into the laundry, repack her toiletries, hang up the new clothes she bought. This time it just sat by the wall, untouched. One night I walked past the bedroom and saw her sitting on the floor with her laptop. She closed it quickly when she saw me. Said she was going through old interviews for cringe moments. I smiled and made a joke about the one where the host kept calling her by the wrong name. She laughed, but her eyes didn't meet mine. The silence was changing. Not louder. Not colder. Just, distorted. Like we were speaking through a thin sheet of water. I didn't suspect anything yet. Not really. But I felt something. And it didn't feel like us. The message came on a Thursday. Late afternoon. I was sitting in the back of a rideshare, headed home from a client meeting, half scrolling through emails, half watching the city blur past the window. The notification buzzed, no name, just a number I didn't recognize. No words in the message either. Just a video file. At first, I thought it was spam. I almost didn't open it. I wish I hadn't. It started with muffled voices, low laughter, a dim room lit in red and gold. Ava was sitting on a studio couch, legs draped across someone's lap. His hand was on her thigh, fingers drawing idle circles. They were close, too close. She looked different. Not in the way she looked, but in the way she leaned into him. Relaxed. Familiar. Intimate. The man, Darren. His voice was unmistakable. He said something low, and she laughed. The kind of laugh that used to be mine. Then it shifted. The video jumped. Now it was Ava straddling him in a darkened corner of the room, her shirt halfway off, his hand tugging at her waistband. Their voices clearer now. Her saying his name. Him telling her to be quiet. Her laughing again. I don't remember watching the rest of it. I remember my hands shaking, my throat going dry, the driver asking if I was okay through the rearview mirror. I didn't answer. Just stared straight ahead. When I got home, I didn't go inside right away. I stood in the hallway outside our door for what must have been 15 minutes. Listening. Nothing but the hum of the elevator down the hall. Inside, the lights were off. Ava wasn't home yet. I walked to the kitchen, turned on the tap, let the water run until it was ice cold. I splashed my face and stared at the marble counter, the reflection of myself in the oven door. Something felt detached. Like I was floating just above my own body. Eventually, I sat down and watched the video again. This time, all the way through. There was no ambiguity. No mistake. No way to twist what I was seeing. She was with him. And someone who knew, had wanted me to see it. I checked the number again. Still unknown. I tried calling it. It rang twice, then cut off. No voicemail. I tried again. Same result. I stared at the screen until it dimmed. Then I opened my photos, saved the video, and sent it to a private folder. An hour later, Ava called. Said she was going to be late. We're running over, she said. Might not be home till after 10. I said, okay. She said, you sound tired. I said, long day. We hung up. I sat there in the dark for a long time after that. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. Not yet. Something colder had started to settle in. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even try. I just sat on the edge of the bed, staring out the window, hands folded like I was waiting for some kind of instruction from the sky. Ava came home around 11:30, kicked off her shoes at the door, and called out softly. You up? I said nothing. When she walked into the bedroom and saw me sitting there in the dark, her voice shifted. Everything okay? I turned to look at her. We need to talk. She froze. What happened? I picked up my phone, pulled up the video, and handed it to her. Play it. Her face changed before she hit play. I watched her flinch at the first frame. She blinked rapidly, mouth opening slightly like she might try to talk, or deny, but then the sound started. I sat still. I didn't move, didn't speak. Just watched her. She made it 20 seconds in before she tossed the phone onto the bed and took a step back. Who sent you that? She asked, voice thin. That's your concern. She started crying. I'd seen her cry 100 times, during movies, at award speeches, even once over a ruined soufflé, but never like this. This was ugly, desperate. I swear it wasn't what it looks like. Stop. She froze again. I don't need explanations. I don't want them. You made your choice. Please just let me explain. It was a mistake, it was. Don't insult me. The silence was heavy. She looked like she was about to collapse. I stood and walked past her. You have an hour to pack a bag. You're not staying here tonight. I can't go to a hotel right now, You're not staying here. She tried to follow me into the kitchen, but I turned around. I want your key. Now. She didn't move. You can tell the rest of your story to the media tomorrow. Because that video's going public. Her mouth fell open. You wouldn't. I already have. I sent it anonymously to 2 music blogs, a gossip site, and 1 journalist with a reputation for exposing industry abuse. I knew exactly how to frame it, just a short message, footage of rising artist and executive producer inside a recording studio. Context matters. No names, no commentary. Just the video and the silence around it. The first site posted it within 3 hours. The others followed. By noon the next day, Ava's name was trending. Not for a new single. Not for a live performance. But for the leaked video and what it suggested about how she'd climbed the ladder. The label scrambled. Her publicist reached out. I ignored every call. Then the real chaos started. 2 former artists came forward anonymously, sharing eerily similar stories. Same producer. Same guidance. Same unspoken pressure. By day's end, a criminal investigation had been opened against the label. I stayed quiet. No statement, no media appearance. Just watched it all unfold. Ava's face was pulled from campaign pages. Brand partnerships suspended. 1 late-night show cancelled her performance. A press release from the label said she was taking time to reflect. She tried calling. Left voicemails. Said she was sorry. Said it wasn't what it looked like. Said she loved me. That we could fix it. That she didn't want to lose us. But there wasn't an us anymore. There was just a silence I didn't feel obligated to fill. The fallout spread fast. By the end of the week, Ava's face was stripped from campaign banners. Sponsorship deals were paused, press appearances pulled without explanation. The music blogs dissected the footage in slow motion, frame by frame, the same way critics once studied her lyrics. Every platform that once called her the future of the industry now buried her in speculation and shame. She issued a statement through her manager, a carefully worded paragraph about poor judgment, private moments taken out of context, and a temporary step back to focus on her well-being. It didn't land. The internet doesn't do nuance. Meanwhile, the man in the video, Darren, disappeared from public view. The label stayed quiet for a day too long, then released a single line about internal matters under review. That night, a new story broke, 2 anonymous former artists sharing eerily similar encounters. Promises, pressure, manipulation. One claimed to have walked away from a career rather than accept what was expected. The story caught fire. The label's silence shattered. A formal investigation opened. I watched it all from a distance. No glee. No second-guessing. Just a kind of stillness I hadn't felt in weeks. Ava texted me again. Then called. I didn't answer. Eventually, she left a voicemail. She sounded wrecked. Said she didn't expect forgiveness. Said she didn't recognize herself in the person she'd become. That she missed me. That she knew I didn't owe her anything, but she wanted to talk, to try. I deleted the message. A week later, I got an email from a small independent radio station. They were pulling Ava's tracks from their rotation until things were clarified. I hadn't reached out to them. No one had. This was just the tide doing what tides do. In the apartment, things grew quieter. I packed up her books first. Then her framed vinyls, the ones she used to hang above her piano. I left her keyboard. I didn't want it. The bedroom still smelled faintly like her shampoo. I opened a window. I wasn't angry anymore. The fury had burned fast and bright, but what came after was something colder. Final. Like finding yourself on a different side of a river you hadn't realized you'd crossed. I met with my lawyer to finalize the divorce papers. He asked if I wanted to pursue further damages, considering the publicity. I said no. I had what I needed. Evidence. Closure. The truth. Ava's sister came by to collect her things. She didn't say much, just that Ava was not in a good place. I nodded. Watched her carry out the boxes. Closed the door behind her. That night, I sat alone in the kitchen, lights low, a single glass of wine in front of me. I played one of Ava's early demos, the ones she used to send me before she had a label, before the world knew her name. Her voice sounded younger. Hungrier. Clearer. Somewhere in all this, that version of her had disappeared. And I finally stopped waiting for her to come back. I moved out a month later. It wasn't sudden. I'd been sleeping in the guest room, eating out more than in, leaving the place before sunrise just to avoid walking past the piano. It stopped feeling like a home the day the silence between us became strategy. I didn't want to live in that echo. I found a loft in Tribeca. Open floor plan, wide windows, bare brick walls. It wasn't warm, not yet, but it felt untouched, like nothing had happened there. I brought only what mattered. A few records. My books. The dog. Everything else I left behind or boxed up for donation. A clean slate, in the truest sense. Ava didn't fight the divorce. Her lawyer sent back the signed paperwork without revisions. No delays, no notes. No alimony requested. It was like she knew there was nothing left to salvage. Just paperwork and ashes. The media cycle shifted, as it always does. The label dropped Darren within weeks. Breach of conduct was the official reason, but everyone knew why. More testimonies emerged. The story snowballed into something bigger than Ava. By the time national outlets picked it up, she wasn't the focus anymore. Just one of the sparks in a long overdue fire. I never responded to the texts she sent after that. They dwindled fast. A final, "I hope someday you'll speak to me again," was the last one I read. Then I blocked the number. Not out of spite. Just necessity. There was nothing more to say. I stayed quiet about the entire thing. Never posted. Never corrected the narrative. Let the public fill in the blanks however they wanted. Some people still defend her. Others vilify her. I don't feel connected to either group. That's their noise now, not mine. A few mutual friends tried to reach out. I didn't return the calls. Not yet. Maybe someday. But not yet. I've been running more. Lifting again. Reconnecting with parts of myself I'd put on the shelf for too long. My days are quieter, but they're mine. I don't watch interviews anymore. I don't check her socials. I don't look for her in the background of music panels or fashion weeks. And when her voice comes on in a cafe or a passing car, I don't flinch. I don't rush to turn it off. I just listen, not as her husband, not even as someone who knew her, but as a stranger hearing a song for the first time. The sound doesn't hurt. Not anymore. Just a voice, floating in the air, already fading.